Tonight, traveler chaos and gunfire erupt at Canada's busiest airport. What led to a fatal confrontation between police and a 30-year-old man?
I don't know how many shots.
Investigating how a call to de-escalate took a dramatic turn. New revelations of the Prime Minister's call with Donald Trump back in March. Did Mark Carney mislead Canadians?
He is under no illusions.
And is the Prime Minister hopeful at risk of losing his own seat? Inside the preparations for the funeral of Pope Francis, as the Vatican releases the first images of his tomb.
I didn't think I'd cry, but when I saw him, I did.
Plus, messy madness in Vancouver.
It's like insanely exciting.
He's the best player in the world.
Will the city be stood up by the soccer superstar again? And a French language face-off.
Okay, that's crazy.
How Quebec's language laws are clashing with a popular hockey chant.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. More than 150,000 passengers travel through Toronto's Pearson Airport each and every day. And today, it was the scene of a dramatic and frightening shooting between a police officer and a young man whom they shot. CTV's Heather Wright leads us off, and a warning, the video you're about to see could be disturbing to some viewers.
A chaotic scene on the departures level of Toronto's Pearson Airport. An officer works to save the life of a 30-year-old man who has just been shot, while a distraught woman is held back from the scene by police.
We're crossing the crosswalk outdoors and we heard something to the effect of 8 to 10 loud popping noises.
Those shots fired by Peel Regional police officers who were called to the airport shortly before 7 a.m.
I don't have much information on the initial call. The information I do have is that it was a man in distress that was at the airport in this vehicle outside on the departures level.
Police say they tried to calm the situation when they arrived on scene where some sort of argument was taking place.
Our officers spent an amount of time trying to resolve the dispute, an immense amount of de-escalation.
But then the situation quickly changed.
Abruptly, one of the individuals produced a firearm at our officers. Two of the officers engaged with the individual. As a result, the subject was shot.
The man was pronounced dead on scene. His name has not been released. And while it's not clear how much time passed between the man pulling out a gun and the officers opening fire, experts say it's typically not long.
They could very quickly go from holding it to pointing it and pulling the trigger, less than a second. And so they really aren't going to waste a lot of time.
Chris Lewis says there is always scrutiny around use of force incidents involving police, especially when someone is killed. That investigation is being led by the SIU, which is now combing through extensive video surveillance from airport cameras, as well as police body camera footage. While the shooting took place at Canada's busiest airport, police say the incident was isolated and there was never any threat to public safety. Still, there were traffic delays and confusion for travelers, though Pearson Airport says no flights were impacted. This is the second police shooting in the Toronto area in less than a week. On Sunday, a 16-year-old was shot by police after the SIU says he opened fire on officers during a traffic stop. He died in hospital 2 days later. Investigators have not yet said how many shots were fired by police here this morning, though they say the man killed never fired his gun. An autopsy is expected in the coming days. Heather Wright, CTV News, Mississauga, Ontario.
Turning now to other news, crunch time on the campaign trail, and Liberal leader Mark Carney being forced to clarify details of his first phone call with U.S. President Donald Trump last month. Here's CTV's Mike LeCouture.
I said that he did.
Mark Carney claims he was clear 4 weeks ago when asked about a call with the U.S. president and whether or not Donald Trump brought up Canada becoming the 51st state. This is what he said right after that call on March 28th.
The President respected Canada's sovereignty today, both in his private and public comments.
Trump's threat to our sovereignty has been one of the main issues of this campaign as party leaders try to convince Canadians who is the best to negotiate with the U.S. president. But now Carney's ability to be clear and transparent is being questioned by other party leaders.
Canadians are wondering, well, what else is going to happen? If he's not going to tell us about a phone call, what about the details of the negotiation? And what about what he's willing to trade away?
Well, that's a question for Mr. Carney to answer. I wasn't there. But what's clear is we will stand up for our sovereignty.
The leader of the Bloc Québécois says this puts Carney's credibility into question.
He wanted to make a statement. I am Mark Carney. I'm the best of them all. I'm a great negotiator. I have managed crisis in the past. I would change the world. Trust me. And it appears that it never happened.
Asked why he wasn't as clear about the 51st state comment after that March 28th call, Carney claimed he had been. But he also said he pushed back on the threat to our sovereignty with Trump.
He raises it all the time, okay? But then the question is what's going to be done with it? And does he understand where we stand, more particularly where I stand? He is under no illusions. Never. Absolutely not. Never. Move on.
Carney said he and Trump agreed any negotiations have to be serious ones between two sovereign nations and not some photo op at the president's Florida estate in Mar-a-Lago. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Winnipeg.
On his first campaign visit to Nova Scotia during the last days before the election, Pierre Poilievre is promising to get rid of the electric vehicle mandate from the Trudeau Liberal government, which aimed to phase out gas-powered vehicles.
A new Conservative government will axe the Carney tax. Conservatives will put you back in the driver's seat for a change.
But the latest Nanos polling does not put the Conservatives in the driver's seat in Atlantic Canada, with no indication they'll pick up new seats.
The Conservative campaign in Atlantic Canada has fallen flat.
Fears around Donald Trump and tariffs have given the Liberals a boost in the polls this campaign. But this local Conservative candidate is confident, saying he's not hearing about Trump anymore at the doors.
I was 3 weeks ago, but that seems to have disappeared, and people have moved back on to mainly cost of living issues.
While a local Conservative campaign source is more worried, telling CTV News they are hearing about Poilievre at the doors as a reason not to vote Conservative.
That's what I like about Pierre. He's a patriot, and he'll work hard for all of us.
At a rally in the former Conservative stronghold of both Elmer and Peter MacKay, held since 2015 by Liberal Sean Fraser, the father and son duo of former and well-known government ministers endorsed Poilievre Wednesday night.
Changing the conductor won't change the music. We need a whole new orchestra in Canada.
I think it's a good move for the Conservatives to bring out Peter MacKay. My biggest question would be, why was he not out in the campaign from the beginning? Why was he not actively stumping for the party and promoting Pierre Poilievre right from the get-go?
And for the first time, according to internal polling from the Ontario Progressive Conservatives viewed by CTV News, it looks like winning Poilievre's own seat back in Ottawa is not a given. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
I'm Rachel Aiello in Toronto. Today, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh kept up his fight for votes on the left. But with the Liberals targeting progressives in their final ad of the campaign, the punches keep coming for the NDP. Singh started his day reviving his pledge to protect Canadian resources, rights, and public health care in any future trade talks with Donald Trump. But when reporters pressed him on whether he'll be around to hold the government's feet to the fire on the file, Singh seemed to get a bit swept up by supporters chanting his name. I would like to ask my question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The
We're
Liberals,
just having a good time here, you know?
I see that. Happy for you. The Liberals' final ad of the election dropped this morning, and a source tells CTV News the aim is to show a more progressive side of Mark Carney in an effort to target NDP and Green swing voters. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that we're seeing more and more people that are worried about Mark Carney's cuts. And so they're trying to hide from that.
In the final days of the federal election, as Carney starts rolling through ridings Singh has just spent time in, the NDP have been trying to leverage the specter of a Liberal majority to bring swing voters back on side. When asked today how worried he is about the Liberals trying to sweep NDP seats, Singh didn't say. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Toronto.
And joining us now is CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Capello. And Vashi, I just want to go back to what Abigail said in her report. How vulnerable is Pierre Poilievre in his riding of Carleton?
Well, Omar, I think even the fact that the prospect is being floated that he could lose this seat that he's held for 2 decades so concretely is significant, right? It says something about the state of the race more generally. But there's also a lot of spin going on from everyone, right? So we wanted to find out ourselves. We went right into the riding. We sent a crew to ask people on the street who they're voting for. And I got to tell you, it was split right down the middle. Take a listen.
The polls suggest that this riding might actually be tighter than it has in previous elections.
I don't believe the polls.
You don't believe it?
At all.
You think that Pierre Poilievre's going to win this one?
Yeah, I believe that.
I have a Liberal sign. I'm hoping for Bruce Fanjoy to win. It'd be nice to have a change in this riding.
I still wish Pierre Poilievre will win, because we need a man like that.
There's reports suggesting that this riding might be tight for the first time in almost 20 years. Do you believe that?
It feels like it. We're going blue. We're going blue in this town.
Who do you plan to vote for on Election Day?
Bruce Fanjoy.
Just a quick footnote to all of this in that riding, Omar. There are 90 people, thanks to an electoral reform protest group, on the ballot. Elections Canada has just said that they will allow for an additional 6 hours to count those votes early.
And typically, according to the Act, it's 1 hour before, so quite an extension there. The vote now is just 4 days away. How close is the race looking?
Well, according to our pollster of record, Nanos Research, it's as tight as it has ever been. Literally, the two parties today, the Conservatives and the Liberals, are within the margin of error of each other. It shows, I think, that message around change that the the Conservatives have really finessed over the last week is starting to drive a little bit of a hole into the primary pitch from the Liberals, which was all about Trump. Ultimately, it will not only be a contest between those two ballot box questions on Monday, but between those two parties as well, Omar.
All right, Vashi, looking forward to seeing you for a special election coverage on Monday, just days away. Thank you. Donald Trump says both sides want to make a deal to end the war in Ukraine, but also offered some rare criticism of Vladimir Putin.
We're in the midst of talking peace and missiles were fired, and I was not happy with it. That's what I meant.
On Truth Social, Donald Trump posted, "Vladimir, stop," in response to Russian strikes. Overnight, Russia launched a devastating bombardment on major cities in Ukraine, including the capital, Kyiv. At least 12 people were killed. The Ukrainian and U.S. presidents are among the 50 heads of state who will attend the funeral of Pope Francis on Saturday. Nearly 100,000 people have already paid tribute, and tomorrow is the final day of public viewing. Today, the Vatican releasing these images of a simple tomb with just one word, Franciscus. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin reports again from Vatican City tonight on the expressions of grief and preparations for the papal conclave.
For each person filing past the casket of the People's Pope, a story, a connection. A reason to want to capture this moment in history. Many are tourists turned pilgrims.
I think that in the first place, how lucky we are to be able to see this, because how many people in the world would like to be, and they are not here.
It was very, very emotional. I didn't think I'd cry, but when I saw him, I did. I started to cry.
My daughter seen the Pope, and even 2 years ago we met the Pope in Budapest by person, and now we wanted to come. We are on a cruise now, on a cruise, and we came just for the Pope.
Around 3,000 pilgrims move through the silence of the Basilica each hour. And with the Pope's family members seated near the casket, soccer players came to offer their prayers. The Pope, a well-known fan of the beautiful game. Cardinals summoned from around the world also continue to converge onto the Vatican. 113 had arrived by morning when a meeting was held in a hall next to the Basilica. Vatican analyst Gerardo Collins says they're discussing final details on preparations for Saturday's funeral, but also plans for the conclave to elect the new pope.
They have chosen a 90-year-old preacher of the papal household, Father Cantalamessa, now a cardinal, to give the talk inside in the conclave. And that's an interesting thing, because he kind of sets the tone.
But for now, the traditions and rituals of mourning continue. A document detailing the Pope's life and coins will be placed in his casket before it's closed for burial. A special moment has been reserved for those closest to the Pope's heart, including some homeless people and migrants at the very end of the public viewing. Omar.
CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin in Vatican City tonight. Jen, thank you. And you can watch our special coverage of the funeral of Pope Francis this Saturday, starting at 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time on CTV, CTV News Channel, and ctvnews.ca. Coming up.
They should keep it as Go Habs Go. Everybody understands Go. Everyone knows what the Habs are. I don't see the issue.
Why a popular hockey chant is taking a back seat in the streets of Montreal. The high-profile sexual assault hockey trial in London, Ontario today was tied up in legal arguments, blocked from being reported because of a publication ban. All 5 players who have pleaded not guilty were present in court. The jury has been told to return tomorrow morning. A Quebec Superior Court judge has overturned the provincial government's tuition hike for out-of-province students. It's a win for McGill and Concordia universities who challenged the sharp hikes. Last fall, Quebec increased tuition for out-of-province students by 33%. The Legault government said the measures were to protect the French language. The province has 9 months to reverse the fee structure. And a language complaint has sidelined a popular sign of playoff hockey in Montreal. CTV's Kelly Gregg now on the fans and politicians calling it offside.
It's the playoffs, the time of year where many get on the Habs bus. But it seems not everyone is on board. For years, city buses could display Go Habs Go. But now, that has to be in French.
Okay, that's crazy. They should keep it as Go Habs Go. Everybody understands Go. Everyone knows what the Habs are. I don't see the issue.
Many Quebecers and politicians agree.
It's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of energy.
For me, it has no impact on the protection of the French language. We're using Go Habs Go. We've been using Go Habs Go for 100 years now.
The OQLF, the Office of the French Language, told CTV this intervention did not originate from the OQLF, but was made following a complaint of having Go CF Montreal Go on an STM bus. And it told the transit agency it must use the French language in an exemplary way, which includes not using English terms in their signage. The Premier uses Go Habs Go, including in this tweet from 2021. The Minister for English-Speaking Relations is at a loss.
Actually, I have no expertise on what should be on bus signs.
The messages on the buses are pre-programmed, and the STM had to manually change each one, although the old sayings are still posted for the drivers on board. Despite the switch taking months, it caught the STM's chairperson off guard.
When I was informed this morning of that matter, my first reaction was, is Go not a French word? Because we use it a lot.
The team itself uses Go Habs Go on flags and towels. And at the Bell Center, the fans' victory chant is technically in Spanish. So with Game 3 tomorrow night, it's alley time for the Canadians. But for fans, the change might take a while to get used to. Kelly Gregg, CTV News.
Still ahead. Messi mania descends on Vancouver, but did he take the pitch? An Ontario judge has given Hudsons Bay permission to prepare to auction off thousands of pieces of art and historical artifacts, including the 355-year-old Royal Charter, which launched the company and is considered a significant historical document. Some Indigenous groups and historians warn that an auction could make key items inaccessible depending on the private buyer, and have asked the Bay to transfer key items like that charter to a public archival institution. The approval to sell comes a day after the Bay announced plans to liquidate its 6 remaining stores. One of the world's greatest ever soccer players took to the pitch to play in Vancouver, much to the delight of a packed house at BC Place.
And we are underway. First leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal.
It was a dream come true for thousands of fans as Argentinian superstar Lionel Messi started the match for Inter Miami FC against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Messi snubbed fans last season after not making the trip to play in Vancouver. Still ahead, digging into the iron ore capital of Canada to extract what's top of mind for voters. Labrador City, first settled in the 1960s, is a mining town that produces iron ore shipped around the world. The city now dealing with major economic issues. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth traveled there to hear what's driving voters to the ballot box this election.
In Labrador City, there are two seasons, winter and summer. Dave Hurley says the vibe is always warm.
We are social beings.
It's also a thriving mining area with 5 companies serving as major employers.
We are the backbone of the iron ore industry in Canada.
Hurley believes the iron ore supply chain is built to survive the ongoing trade war.
It's tariff-proof in regards to people want it, regardless of what it costs.
Labrador City features different opinions on the pressing issues in this election campaign.
A lot of people who end up leaving here, that's why, because of lack of doctors.
Probably just seeing the unfriendliness of politics recently, like how things can't be settled the way they seem to have used to be settled.
Mohit Gupta immigrated from India 14 years ago and has one concern that trumps all others.
The biggest problem is housing here.
Around 9,000 people live here, and because of the mining industry, this area has become a destination for skilled workers and is poised for growth. But people who live here say a lack of infrastructure is a major problem, which makes growth impossible.
We don't want to be a mining town where we have fly in, fly out, and that's what we've become. What we want to become is just a town with a mine, but we also have government buildings, expansion on our hospitals and our long-term care.
Mayor Belinda Adams says federal support is needed at a time when only 11 hospital beds are designated for seniors care.
Other than that, we don't have any housing for our seniors.
According to Adams, overall, only 160 new homes have been built in the past 20 years.
We lack the availability of a builder to come in and build these homes.
Big picture, Hurley says Western Labrador's mining industry is a major contributor to Canada's economy, and these problems are worth improving with federal assistance.
We need the support in terms of funding and resources.
Hurley promises it would enhance the overall quality of life in this northern town. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Labrador City.
And that is a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather will be here tomorrow. Hope you can join her then. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night. And I'll see you early Saturday morning for our live coverage of the funeral of Pope Francis. Good night.